Hello everyone, welcome back to Rise of the Underminer. Gonna stop talking in just a second, but we have our little point breakdown. I didn't put this at the end of the last video just because, well, I wasn't planning on rambling for as long or as, late into the video as I ended up doing. And so, I thought that the transition, the fade out going into the elevator would be a little bit more smooth, but that's my bad, I suppose. And I just scratched my neck and I discovered that I have a zit on my neck and I'm sad. It's painful. Anyway, whatever, who cares? Anyway, this is the Magnomizer Guardian, robot fight.
Welcome to the Magnomizer, the ultimate doomsday machine. It will be the only thing left standing in a few moments. Calculating every magnetic energy force on the Earth, I will now refocus all those forces to reverse the poles and flip the whole planet. It will destroy everything topside. The skies will be filled with dirt, and the sun will become a distant memory. It will turn your world upside down.
You're upside down.
To continue
That's a great little piece of character animation there, Frozone being like, this fucking guy.
Shut this down. The power to this impressive machine is secure underground in an underwater cave. For tours of the underwater power and pressure station, you will need to survive me and then make an appointment with a power pressure guardian, Doug. The Magnomizer is ready to go full power and you can't do anything to stop it. Shutting it off is no longer an option.
We're not gonna shut it off. We're gonna destroy it. We're gonna tear this thing apart.
Destroy the Magnomizer itself? I didn't think of that. Well, maybe I can convince you to run for your lives instead.
The Underminer sent us to...
Yeah, it's a weird... I think, yeah, the little grill that's supposed to be like her mouth, like that's the front of her face, but when she's talking, she has the arms in front. So I was always kind of, confused about what the deal was with that. With, like, which part of her was supposed to be the front. But yeah, this is the first boss of the game. It's pretty straightforward enough one. It involves freezing those... They look like bugs. I always just call them, like, stink bug missiles, because they look like little bugs. The big ones with wings that home in on you. And they, like, leave the little trail of poopy when they hit something, when they hit the ground. But anyway, this is how most of the bosses in this game work, is that they have, things. You usually gotta throw something at them or do some special thing to them while they're shooting shit at you, and then they send out robots. And you gotta beat up the robots. And for me, Frozone's my guy for going through the levels, but if you just need to, like, smash, like, 10 robots at once, your best bet is usually Mr. Incredible, and that was dog shit that I missed that. What the hell? But yeah, if you don't have if you want to do the freezing shit, then you have to, like, find a box. Boxes just kind of get dumped around. I guess you can't hit from that. It's too far. Yeah, I'm big idiot. But yeah, I really liked this boss when I was a kid. Not necessarily playing it, but I liked the idea of it, and like I said, I've talked before about how around the time that I played this game, I was at an age where I was Mr. Incredible got decked. Just coming up with dumb, like, video game ideas just from the games that I played. They would just be like things that I liked from other games, but I would just put them together in a way that I thought was cool. Like, I came up with, obviously, I came up with this idea for a sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom, which didn't they make? I mean, obviously they didn't make mine, but they made, it's like Plankton's Robotic Revenge or something. Apparently it sucks. Like, I haven't really seen any positive reception to it, but, yeah, I had an idea. I wanted it to be like a Wii, kind of release, like that kind of generation of console, is how I formulated it in my head. But it was too good for them, I suppose. But one thing was, as I've mentioned before, a lot of the games that I played at the time heavily featured robots. And just in general, I feel like robots are pretty heavily featured in, like, kid content, because I think one of the biggest reasons is because they are human-esque forms that you can do pretty much whatever you want to, and it'll be fine, because they're not human bodies. And you're not, like, suggesting real, serious human injury. I like how it hits you during the wait for the cutscene.
Once we start smashing things,
It's a risk we'll have to take. Let's save the world.
Bleh. But yeah, so as a result, I spent a lot of time when I would draw pictures of the things that I wanted in these fake video games in my imagination. It resulted in me drawing quite a few robots in my time. Between this and Battle for Bikini Bottom and probably some other games that I'm not thinking of right now that heavily feature robots and came out around this time, I'm sure there are. Over the Hedge game doesn't have robots, but it does have, like, brainwashed and mechanically enhanced animals and, like, machines. Like, there are enemies in that game that are machines. Like, they're kind of fucking insane. The, like, weaponized, grills. Like, they're grills that sit outside on a, you know, back porch or whatever, and then they, like, fly and they shoot fireballs at you. And then they have the, like, hidden bush enemies that are shrubs, but then, these, like, giant mechanical spinning, blades come out of them. I mean, the idea, it's so funny in that game, and it just, like, takes what the movie, already parodies to just the nth degree of, the high-tech and expensive, and, like, Rube Goldberg-y ways that, extend, like, efforts that humans are willing to expend in order to, like, keep vermin out. And in the specific case of the humans in the movie, like, specifically for the purpose of maintaining property values. I think that's funny, and I wish that the movie was smart enough to have, like, done something with that idea, but it doesn't really. And it also is not very clear on how it feels about the animal-human hierarchy that is at the center of its story. Or, like, whether or not the separation between them is good. Because, like, the implication is that they have to, like, forage for food, and humans have abundant food that they're hoarding. I don't know. Big Joel has a great video on how Over the Hedge is one example of... He only gives a few, but I think there are several in the Dreamworks catalog. That, like, essentially tell a story that is the story of, like, main characters versus an oppressive hierarchy, but the way that the story actually plays out and the way that the main characters achieve happiness ultimately ends up, like, saying that the hierarchy is okay and it stays in place, which I think is really interesting, and I think you could, you know, take that reading a lot further. You could go interesting places with that. And it is interesting, even though they clearly aren't conceived of that way, to see, like, the filmography, the output of a studio, and look at their narratives as, like, a coherent sort of, not necessarily ideology, but, you know, you see recurring things in their stories, and they might not even be dynamics that the writers are consciously thinking about, like whether or not this or that movie ultimately argues for or against, in a meaningful way, the hierarchy that it presents. Because I think, for the most part, you know, the animal-human hierarchy thing, or the animal-animal hierarchy in some of them, like Shark Tale, You know, they aren't conceived of by the people making those movies to be, like, coherent suggestions of the world at hand, even though they read that way. And that's what makes them funny and what makes the stories, you know, something that we... You know, the fact that it's with any story, it mirrors what it relates to actual life in some way. I mean, there's a suggestion that the world that the animals of Over the Hedge live in is the real world. So, like, the one we live in. Just the present day. And there, you know, are implications that come with that. But I think it's pretty obvious for most of those films, they are just conceived of as conduits for, you know, funny animal comedy. Which is fine. You know, they're cartoons. That's what they're for fucking babies. It's just nerdy neckbeard adults like me and Big Joel who are fucking thinking deeply about this shit, but it's fun, so I don't care. And these robots are a million times more annoying now that they have force fields, which I think the Incredislam, like, breaks them a little bit or something, but as far as I know, you kind of just have to wait them out, and hitting them makes them deplete faster, and that's why I do that little scooting around them with Frozone bit there. And yeah, that's the easiest thing to do, is just back them up into the energy beams. But yeah, this part is kind of a pain in the dick. This is a Magnomizer. This is a big machine that we're here to boom. One of several big machines that we have to boom in order to kill the Underminer. But yeah, these fuckers, they just... Even... It sucks, like, they'll be coming out of the hole when they first spawn, and I'll see them coming, and I'll just start with the freeze ray immediately. And then they... Well, you know, the freeze ray won't work until they're all set up, but then they immediately start the force field even after, like, it's been a second, and you would think, like, they're gonna start freezing now, because I've been freezing since before they came out of the ground, but no, not allowed to do that. You have to sit through the force field so that every fucking enemy takes 10 minutes to beat for no reason. And yeah, there's a little guy, I don't know if you can see it, I barely even notice it when I play through this, but there's a little scientist in there, and I forget what you have to do, but you, like, break stuff, and he gets his way through there. I don't know if I did it. I don't think I did, because I think it has a message that says, like, congratulations, you saved the scientist. You're a science guy. It doesn't say that. But whatever. Who cares about him? Fuck that guy. He chose to work on the Magnomizer, okay? He knew what he was getting into. And yeah, this part's sped up because I died during this part, this barrage of robots. They say at the beginning, like, you need to throw something to hit the boy shooting stuff in the distance there, and there'll be more of them here. But they have force fields too, and they just go into effect before your thing can reach them every time, so it doesn't fucking matter. And they're really just there to annoy you. But I didn't figure that out until they killed both of us, so then I had to redo it. And, you know, that's the story. That's what happened. And I figured you didn't want to watch... I mean, all of this all together is, like, 6 or 7 minutes of doing this shit. And it's, like, the exact same as the one we did 30 seconds ago, so I really didn't feel the need to keep it all unedited. I love speeding stuff up in these LPs because it's just cacophonous. It's amazing. One thing that I wanted to talk about before we get much deeper into the video and I have to abruptly stop again is related to what I was talking about in the last video, which is Disney+. Me and Liv have been rewatching the classic Disney Channel show That's So Raven. Which is unironically maybe my favorite Disney Channel sitcom, like the live-action sitcoms. It's not my favorite Disney Channel show at all, but I think it's one of the most consistently funny, like actually funny. There are parts in the show that legitimately make me laugh really hard. I mean, it has all of the corny bullshit that you hate in Disney Channel, or at least that I hate in Disney Channel shows. And when you think about any of the like high school stuff for more than 2 seconds, you're like, did an alien write this show? Like, have these people ever set foot in a school before? What do they think teenagers' lives are? But whatever. So, like, none of that stuff is what appeals to me, and, like, certainly there's a lot of songs in the show that are just, like, total fucking garbage. But I think there are shows that there are episodes of it that are actually quite decently written. I think, every Disney Channel show, or most of them, I think when I got older and kind of stopped watching Disney Channel shows, and into now, in the very, very few new Disney Channel shows that I've seen in the past few years, I have not seen that many. But, I'm not an expert or anything, so I don't know for sure, but it seems like they do them less now. But back in the day, like, almost every kid show, and certainly every, like, live-action sitcom sort of show, had, like, issue episodes where, one episode would be about a character or whatever that, like, had a thing, and it's, like, a social topic or whatever. That's So Raven obviously has at least one explicit one, but actually several that have to do with, like, racism, and a couple that have to do with sexism. It's kind of, you take it how you will, because the show also has jokes and bits that are quite racist and sexist, but and antiquated because it's Disney Channel and it was the early 2000s. But I think it has, those episodes make more cogent points and are better sort of dramatizations of those issues than most other similar episodes of similar shows that you could find. But the main thing that's interesting about That's So Raven to me, and the thing that I've been thinking about while rewatching it, is that with all of the juvenile jokes and the, like, complete, this adherence to a very, like, a fictional kid logic, like, it really is, like, what 40-year-olds think teenagers worry about. Like, career TV people who, never speak to their children, all, like, oh, well, what do teenagers worry about? Well, obviously, every single day they're trying to date someone, and also, like, the little kids are, like, they're very, very rigidly put together social structures of who's cool and who's a nerd, and, you have to do, like, rites of passage to get into the cool table, and, like, all those things. And That's So Raven has plenty of them. Like, they have a section of the hallway called the jock block, and it's, the lockers where all of the jocks, all the jocks' lockers. And so if you're a girl and you walk through there, you want to, like, look good so all the boys can, jack off to you. Like, it's all very literalized sort of things like that, or, like, obviously no one's doing that. So, with all of that, with that very juvenile sort of approach to everything, and, simple stories, you kind of forget that adults are writing the show and making the show, and that they have, like, just as weird and insane adult lives as anyone else working in television. And that comes through with Orlando Brown, who I know recently was in rehab, but used to put up absolutely insane videos on Twitter of him, like, doing hard drugs and being fucking insane. And the recent video that trended on Twitter where, in, like, an argument, in a scene where Raven and Eddie and Chelsea are all yelling at each other, at least it very much sounds like Raven says the N-word twice, and it made it through. And I love shit like that in children's television. That's awesome. Just reminding you that, like, oh, yeah, like, crazy, coked out, insane Hollywood people were behind this. Like, that's fucking hilarious. That owns.